Hello, Chamber faithful. Welcome to the Chamber's virtual education series. I'm your host, Jeremy Field. The Boise Metro Chamber is the only five-star accredited member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in the state of Idaho. That distinction helps us to advocate and educate on issues that impact our members. The programs and services we provide support four core areas: economic vitality, advocacy, education, and member engagement. We are excited to continue to provide high-quality educational content today. It, however, would not be possible without the help of our sponsor, Sparklight. We'd also like to recognize our media partners, the Idaho Statesman, Idaho Press, Idaho Capital Sun, and Idaho Education News, who help ensure this program is available to audiences throughout Idaho. And now a word from our presenting sponsor, Sparklight.
This is the sound of connecting,
Good morning.
of learning, creating, competing, bonding.
How's he doing?
A lot better.
This is the sound of fast, reliable internet. A fiber-powered network, delivering speeds up to 1 gig,
Absolutely.
and whole home Wi-Fi. So all your devices stay connected. This is the sound of Sparklight, a stronger connection.
Thank you, Sparklight, for your service. Watching that commercial made me think about there's a lot of jazz fans in Southeast Idaho, and we'll see a rebuilding here this year. But to all those jazz fans out there, don't worry, Danny Ainge is at the helm, and he'll get this thing going again. So yeah, but we are really grateful to our guest, the president of of Idaho State University, Kevin D. Satterlee. Kevin D. Satterlee became Idaho State University's 13th president in June 2018, and that's a great lucky number to be the 13th president. He has served Idaho's higher education system for over 20 years. Kevin has a passion for watching students transform their lives through their educational experiences. His favorite day of work for the last 20 years has always been the first day of school. Watching students begin a new year with fresh hopes and excitement for new opportunities has never ceased to move and motivate Kevin. And I agree. I think that is the most fun day on the campus. Upon assuming the presidency, Kevin committed to faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends of the university to always listen, be transparent, and lead inclusively. As a natural problem solver, the challenges facing Idaho State University and higher education in general do not faze Kevin. Rather, these challenges give him the motivation and determination he needs to face them head on. Idaho State University's strengths are evident. As Idaho's leader in health science education, a strong partner of Idaho's National Laboratory, and a university where faculty and staff always put students first, there is an amazing story to tell. Kevin has been privileged to help share these stories with state leadership, community members, and future students. One of his top priorities as president is to continue to build on this and celebrate ISU's strengths, traditions, and community culture. In the next 10 years, Kevin aims to lead Idaho State University to great heights by maximizing the strengths of the institution, building strong and lasting relationships between the university and its constituents, and helping to remove barriers to success. The future of Idaho State University is bright with the talent and passion of the Bengal family. Kevin could not be more proud to be a Bengal. Prior to his arrival, Kevin served 17 years at Boise State University in a variety of leadership positions. Most recently, the Chief Operating Officer, Vice President, and Special Counsel to the President. Kevin led the campus operations of Boise State in addition to serving as a key executive leader responsible for collaboratively steering the overall direction of the university. Before that, Kevin was a deputy attorney in the Idaho Attorney General's office for 6 years. During much of this period, he served as the chief legal officer to the Idaho State Board of Education. Kevin received his bachelor's degree in political science from Boise State University, magna cum laude, and was named a top 10 scholar of the university. He received his law degree from the University of Idaho, also magna cum laude. Kevin has 3 children. He enjoys jet skiing, fishing, baking, and spending as much of his time as possible with friends and family. So, President Satterlee, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it. It's good to be here today.
Yeah. So you came in with a really strong background in education. When you were going to law school, did you think this is where you'd end up?
No, not at all. In fact, I didn't think of this as a career at all while I was going to law school. And I remember the day when I was in the Attorney General's office when the Attorney General's chief of staff said, "Hey, there's a position open as the Deputy Attorney General for the State Board of Education to do education work." And they said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "No, I'm not. And he said, well, it's a promotion. I said, yes, but I like the work that I'm doing currently. And then he looked at me, he said, well, you don't understand. We want you to be interested in it, and we're going to move you into that position. So I always describe it as I was dragged kicking and screaming into education work. But I'm so thankful that it happened, because what I didn't realize is that I always had a passion for what education can do for someone. So I'm the first member of my family to get a bachelor's degree. And so I've seen firsthand what an education can do for someone. And I got my bachelor's degree, then I went on to law school, and I've seen what education can do. And I didn't realize until I married up my law degree with my passion for education, how I could be helpful in that realm, and what that means personally, and how fulfilling it is to help these students better their lives through education. At Idaho State University, we're 90% Idaho resident students. So these are the students from Idaho who are, great Idahoans who want to get an education to better their lives. Many of them first generation college students. And that is so rewarding to help those students get that education to go out and live that better life. But I never thought I was going to do it, but here I am.
Yeah. So when you when you left, you didn't really leave the law, but you made that transition to university, being directly employed by a university. What was that transition like? And what kind of, obviously you said it lit the spark underneath you, but kind of describe to me what that transition was like.
Well, it's interesting because luckily I had worked with the Attorney General's office, which is a fantastic office. And they do a good job. And one of the things you really learn when you're working in the Attorney General's office is you're doing the right thing for the right reasons. You're practicing law on behalf of the public good to do best for our society. And I was trained in that in the AG's office. So to make that transition to the university, I brought that mindset that we are here to do a public good. The reason we have public universities is no less important than the continuation of the republic. And I don't mean that as hyperbole. I go back to the founding of our nation when the framers were in Independence Hall. And at the end, when a crowd had gathered around at the end and the framers came out, and someone from the crowd called out and said, "What have you brought us?" And Benjamin Franklin answered, and he said, "We've brought you a republic if you can keep it." Right? This was a new idea. We've brought you a republic if you can keep it. And other framers at the time wrote many things, one of which is a line the companion line to that's actually in Idaho's Constitution. It's in Article 9, Section 1 of Idaho's Constitution, and it says, "The stability of the republic as a form of government depends mainly upon the intelligence of the people." So if you take those two lines, "We've brought you a republic if you can keep it," and "the stability of the republic depends mainly upon the intelligence of the people." When we look at public higher education and public education as a whole, it's about educating the people so that we can self-govern as our Constitution envisions. That the people need to be informed and educated when they go to the polls to cast a vote, when they go to elect a school board member or pass a school bond. When people self-govern as our republic envisions, if we do not educate the public, then they won't make educated choices when they self-govern. I literally believe that public higher education in this country is about something so important as the perpetuation of our republic as a way of life. That's one of the highest callings I can think of.
I love that. And I think, obviously we're living in a time where if you just watch we can self-select where we get our information, how we get educated on things. And universities, what you're talking about is it's a real training ground to be able to learn how to understand your point of view, but others understand another's point of view, and be able to engage in the kind of conversation that is based on facts and knowledge, and try to move away from the personal attacks that we see on a daily basis. So a role of a university done well will promote the kind of leadership qualities we want to have, people that are in public office to preserve that republic. So I really love that point.
It's this concept that, and it's this horrible anti-education narrative that's out there that somehow we're indoctrinating people, which we are not. But what we teach in higher education is not, we don't teach people what to think, but we teach people how to think, how to critically analyze issues, how to have civil discourse on the issues that face our society and talk about them and analyze them and critically look at them so that we can make these decisions going forward. That's one of the great issues of higher education. Is higher education has always been this, the phrase that always sticks in my mind is this, cacophony of multifarious voices. All these different voices can come together on a university campus, talk about the issues, do it in a civil manner, and then let people decide for themselves. We don't teach people what to think, we teach them how to think. And these attacks that are going on against higher education right now are just so misplaced. But the misinformation is out there. It is the real reason why higher education is so important now, is to educate when there's this misinformation going on. So our mission is probably as important now as it has ever been.
I love that. I know that a lot of those stories come from higher education in places where we see a real struggle with people not wanting to hear other people's point of views. Those tend to be more private universities or coastal, and it's where students live on campus, and the university almost takes on a religious feel where heretics can't come onto these sacred grounds and share anything that goes against the truth of the campus. And Idaho's public universities have none of those elements. They are, you look at Boise State and ISU, such a high degree of non-traditional students. People don't live on campus in the first place. Most people don't live on campus. It's the same story at the University of Idaho. And the elements that make that are where higher education has received some criticism, the elements don't exist in Idaho's education system. And so I was a graduate of ISU. I loved going there. I loved meeting, especially there was a lot of great international students. A lot of people didn't change my views, but they helped refine my views and helped me defend my point of view better and helped me to understand where they were coming from in a way that enlightened me as to their good intent, and really took away, when the greater understanding you have of other people's point of views, it's harder to make a boogeyman out of people. And that's the great beauty and role of the university.
Well, yeah. And, Idaho's higher education campus is all of us, us and all of our sister institutions. We are a great poster child for the value of the First Amendment. The First Amendment is and always will be protected on our campuses, and it is. And we can discuss any topic. Any topic can be discussed and debated on a university campus, and it's supposed to be. And it's what we do. But this notion that is out there that somehow we're teaching anti-American ideals is just so far from the truth. And when I was at the legislature this year and got a question in committee, what I told them is, listen, I'm a native Idahoan. I'm a fourth generation native Idahoan. The allegation that somehow on our campus we're teaching anti-American ideals is so misplaced. Is not what we are doing. In fact, we are teaching the most fundamental of American ideas, the First Amendment, and the ability to speak, the ability to talk about things, and the ability to have people educated to self-govern, as I've already talked about. That's what's really happening on all of our campuses in Idaho. And any claim that it's not that is just so far from the truth.
Yeah. And I really, I love that statement. It's, having personal experience with higher education in Idaho, I never experienced that. Definitely experienced great debates, but never experienced anything that tried to change my opinion. It's been interesting to see how that has developed in the legislature, but I really appreciate your comments on that.
Yeah.
Following up on, obviously Idaho State has a strong tradition of medical education for our state. And then you were recently in the news for receiving a $14 million gift for the College of Pharmacy. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that and your mission to lead health science in the state?
Yeah, sure, Jeremy. So Idaho State University is designated by the state and the State Board of Education as the lead university for health sciences education for Idaho. So we offer almost a complete panoply of all of the medical education that you can get. In fact, 75% of all healthcare degrees offered in the entire state of Idaho come from Idaho State University. That is what we do, and we do it very well. In particular, let me talk about the College of Pharmacy for a minute. College of Pharmacy is over 100 years old. It's the oldest college on the campus, and it's literally been the leader in pharmacy and pharmacy education for now over 100 years. So the ALSAM Foundation has given us $14 million, which is the lead gift of an overall $21 million project to renovate the College of Pharmacy building here on the campus in Pocatello. And it will renovate our campus with updated teaching and laboratory research spaces for the future. And, right now our College of Pharmacy operates in 3 locations. We have a complete pharmacy program here in Pocatello. We have a complete pharmacy program, the entire program that operates in our Meridian Health Science Center, and we have a complete, fully operational program in Alaska at Anchorage. State of Alaska doesn't have a pharmacy program, and so we provide that for the state of Alaska. Their students are actually Idaho State University pharmacy students in Alaska. So one of the things that this gift does is it designates our College of Pharmacy, which is now officially a Skaggs College of Pharmacy. And there are very few that have that designation coming from the Skaggs family, which was one of the original founders of pharmacy, a chain of pharmacies throughout the nation. And the Skaggs College of Pharmacies now put our College of Pharmacy in this small but elite group with University of Utah, University of Colorado, University of Arizona, University of California, San Diego. There's only a few that carry this designation, and one of them is ours. So what this particular gift is going to do for our College of Pharmacy in Pocatello is advance our research spaces. So I have to tell you the story. I was over with some of our pharmacy students a few months ago, and I was in one of the labs that will get upgraded and remodeled and be very modern with this gift. One of our students was in there, and they have a machine, and it's like a 3D printer, which we're all familiar with, but this 3D printer actually prints human tissue when it's done. It's not plastic, it actually prints human tissue. And so they had printed 20 samples of human bone tissue. And then they had an actual patient. They took cancer cells from this patient, from an actual cancer patient, put the actual patient's cancer cells into the bone that they had printed 20 different samples, and then tested each one of those samples with a different chemotherapy drug on each one of the 20 samples. And then they ran the tests to see which chemotherapy drug did the most damage to the cancer with the least damage to the surrounding bone tissue. And then they go back to the doctor, the physician that's working with the patient, and they say, this is the one that you should use because it's literally, they've already tested which drug will do the best at fighting the cancer with the least damage to the surrounding tissue. And that's the kind of research our students are doing right now. That's how our health science mission impacts all of our lives going forward, is they do that type of research now. So imagine when we build new research labs about what that will do for the advancement of pharmacological research for the state of Idaho, to create a center where we can test those types of things and test new drugs and new treatments. That's the intent behind this. That's why the ALSAM Foundation agreed that this is a worthwhile investment, and we're moving that forward. And that's going to benefit pharmacy education for the entire state.
That's incredible. That's why I love university life and just knowing what's going on at these institutions, because it's incredible. Prendy, I had no idea that ISU was doing that, and I knew a lot of other great stuff that's going on, but that's just incredible. I know that what's really exciting about that is that your facilities are upgrading what was the former county hospital right there on campus, and it's just an incredible facility. and to be able to build onto that and modernize and update it. What a great thing for the campus.
Well, and we're growing that throughout the state. So we're growing it here in Pocatello, but we're also growing the health science center we have in Meridian. A lot of people might not know about, a lot of your members might not know exactly what we do out there, but we offer our physician's assistant, our nurse practitioner, our nursing programs, our physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology. All of those programs in our medical field are also operated out in Meridian. And 3 years ago, we bought the piece of land right across the street from our existing health science center, and it's 23 acres that right now is bare farm ground because it was a small farm operation. We've purchased it, and we are just now beginning the master planning of that, because that takes our health science center, which we have now, and we will plan on building out an entire health science campus. With the 15 acres we're on now, plus 23 acres, we're going to end up with almost a 40-acre health sciences complex, because everybody knows health sciences needed in the state of Idaho. We have one of the lowest health science per capita providers, and we all know it's a growing industry. And when you look at the hot jobs through the Department of Labor, many of those hot jobs are in the healthcare field, and that's what we do at Idaho State University. So we're going to grow that campus over there as well. And I think what everybody will enjoy hearing is that I've already made the commitment to our sister institutions, to Boise State, to the University of Idaho, to Lewis Clark State College, to College of Western Idaho, that as we grow out that campus, there's going to be space for what they do as well. So it's Idaho State University's campus, but we're going to grow a health science campus that has all of Idaho's higher education participating, because that's best for all of us and best for our students. And that's what's really going to grow that healthcare campus.
No, that place is incredible. I've had the opportunity to walk through and see the facility and what's available to these students. And Idaho needs these professionals, and it's so wonderful that it's a giant resource for our entire state. So that's wonderful news to hear about. Let's visit a little bit more about just the support this university receives from its past alumni, from the people that really believe in its mission. Earlier this month, the university concluded a 32-hour giving campaign. And in the past, I've actually helped on the phone bank and called up on that fundraiser. It's wonderful. But this year, you raised more than $830,000 to support students. And what's your reaction to the success of that campaign?
Well, first of all, Jeremy, thanks for helping out with that in the past, because that is a good program, and it's helped directly to our students. So I'm really thrilled about that support, but I'm also humbled by it, because that amount, $832,000 raised in just 32 hours of giving, is a record for our campus. We had over 1,300 different individuals who contributed to that campaign with gifts of all sizes. So not only was it our alumni and our friends and our donors, but even students were involved in that program. And the other thing about that program is this year, 30% of our donors on Bengal Giving Day were new donors who had not given to the university previously. So with the trajectory we are on as an institution and the good things we're doing, we're seeing people that see that vision, that see we are out to help students better their lives through education, to see that we're trying to produce these professionals that Idaho needs, and they are agreeing that we are moving in the right direction. They want to support us and support our students. So this campaign success was really a call to action for Idaho State to continue to provide that quality education, to provide those opportunities for our students. More people are noticing that this university is moving in the right direction, that we're helping our students, and that we're making our society better by what we're doing. So I think that campaign is indicative of the trajectory that we have the university on right now. And that's probably the most exciting thing about it.
That's amazing. Yeah, wonderful campaign, and congratulations on setting a new record. You became the president of Idaho State in 2018. What would you consider to be the successes or highlights of the last 4 years?
Well, there have been a lot of successes, and they sometimes are in very visible ways, and sometimes they're ways that are just good for the institution. But things have gone pretty well. If I had to say what's our number one success, is just during the 4 years that I've been at Idaho State, we've graduated nearly 10,000 students. Right, 10,000 students who are going out to better their lives. That's our why. That's why we do what we do. We celebrate these graduates because that's why our institution exists. So that's literally our number one success. And people might think it's a large donation for College of Pharmacy or these other things we're doing, but in the end, at the end of the day, it's those 10,000 students that are now, out helping our society be better. They're making a living to support their families, or doing all these great things. But we've done some really fundamental things in the last few years as well. When I arrived, one of the first things we did is we sat down with our faculty and wrote a new faculty constitution, talking about how we're going to work together with our faculty to move the institution forward. And that was a major move forward for us. So things like that maybe aren't as visible, but they are indicative of us coming together as a complete campus to move the institution forward with this vision. And then there's the other thing. We have revamped the way we do our student recruiting and retention, right? Because we not only want to get more students into higher education, but once they are, we need to retain them towards graduation. We need to improve our graduation rates in the state of Idaho. And last fall, after many years of declining enrollment at Idaho State University, we had an enrollment increase. And that's a win, because we are getting more students interested in higher education. And once we get them here, we're keeping them here towards graduation, because we don't want them to stop out partway through, because that doesn't help them. And then honestly, Jeremy, and this is a tough one, is what I have to mark as one of our successes is very unfortunate. And that is, we continued during a pandemic to educate our students and graduate students. There are universities across the nation that no longer exist. They literally closed during the pandemic. There were universities across the nation that didn't have in-person instruction, that lost their students. We actually have come through the pandemic with an increase in our number of students. We graduated increased numbers of students, and our students were here. Yes, we went online for parts of it. For the most part of it, we found the way to educate in person and do it safely with the proper guidelines. So during the entire pandemic, we still had students on our campus doing the hands-on work, doing the research, and in class, and done safely. And honestly, Idaho's higher education system ought to be the poster child for how higher ed reacted to a pandemic. I really believe we did it better than most states from what I've seen. And the way we did it is we did it together. When this pandemic first hit, and I'm proud of this for Idaho State University, our staff brought together the staff from all of the universities and community colleges in Idaho, and we formed a working group headed up by our campus. And we had weekly meetings, literally weekly meetings for all of the 2 years of the pandemic. And we shared best practices. When one of our institutions would say, hey, we're doing this, then we all knew what they were. Or we tried this and it didn't work, and we shared it. We didn't do what I think people think the old model was, where as universities we were competing with one another. Your public institutions in Idaho banded together. We shared best practices. We worked together, and we all remained open, and we all served our students in a way many other states did not do. So I was talking with our athletic director, Pauline Theros, in the middle of the pandemic. And I said, Pauline, the hard part, neither of us took the jobs we have now in order to deal with a pandemic. I didn't become president of a university to deal with a pandemic. She didn't become athletic director to deal with a pandemic. We both have the jobs we have because we want to serve a larger mission, our why. But in order to do that, we had to deal with a pandemic, and we did. And in Idaho, we were successful. And I think everybody and all of your members can be very proud of what Idaho's higher education system did during the pandemic to get us through, graduate our students, and in fact, increase the number of students that we had.
I think that says a lot about the relationships that you must already have had with other administrators and the faculty that share across campuses, because you know, universities aren't known for having that kind of cooperative relationship. It is competitive. So would you say that maybe that's the biggest significant factor that you did so well out of the pandemic compared to other states, is that you were able to band together?
Yeah, it's huge. We have, as presidents of Idaho's institutions now, we're working together in ways that's never been done before. And my colleagues and the presidents of those institutions are great colleagues, and we get along fantastically. And it's not just we get along, we're actually working together. So last year in the legislature, just this last session, Scott Green and I, the president of the University of Idaho, came up with an idea. And we came up with an idea that we should work together because we both operate our campuses in Idaho Falls. Idaho State University maintains the campus, but University of Idaho's programs in Idaho Falls are offered on our campus. So we went together and pitched an idea that we should jointly enhance our nuclear engineering education up there, because up at the Idaho National Lab, the Department of Energy has announced they're going to spend literally more than $1 billion with new reactor designs for the next generation of power for the United States. And we offer the nuclear engineering program that's up there, and the University of Idaho and us work together on that. So we came to the legislature and said, what if you jointly funded an enhanced nuclear engineering program in Idaho Falls, and don't fund Idaho State University's program, don't fund University of Idaho's program, but let's come together jointly for a budget request for an academic program to advance nuclear engineering in Idaho Falls. That marks the first time, literally, first time in state's history, the two universities went and jointly got money for a joint academic program for the legislature to advance an academic program that we're going to do together as partners. And it got funded. The governor loved the idea, the legislature loved the idea, and it passed. In a time when new money for higher education is not easy to get, that went forward. Part of the reason it went forward is because we are doing things like that jointly. If we can get rid of the old dated notion that we have to be in competition with one another and instead work together, it's going to benefit all of Idaho, and it is benefiting all of Idaho and all of Idaho's students. So Idaho is one of the few states in the nation right now that has a growing high school population. Many states have declining high school enrollments right now because population decline. Idaho actually has, if you look at the demographics in high school and middle school and elementary, we are going to have a growing high school population over the next decade. That means there's plenty of students. We don't have to fight between Idaho's universities as to who gets them. We just have to get them and get them to school. So one of the things that was maybe a bit of a shock to the student recruiters that we have at Idaho State University is that I have told them, when you go out on the road and you're recruiting in high schools and you're getting students to come to Idaho State and you're recruiting them, I want you to carry the recruiting materials for our sister institutions, for U of I, for Lewis Clark, for Boise State. And if you find a student and what they're interested in and what they want in their college experience is better suited at one of our sister schools, point them in that direction. Because yes, do I want them to come to Idaho State? Yes, I do. But if they're not going to come to Idaho State, I want them to still go on. And I want them to go to one of our sister schools if that's what's best for that student. That's how we're working together now in Idaho's higher education system. And I think that's a win for everybody.
That's wonderful. And it speaks to the leadership that we have at our universities. I love that story. Wanted to visit a little bit about the focus on higher education with Idaho's workforce needs. And this is a story throughout the nation, but Idaho is not any different. We have the greatest generation, our baby boomers are retiring. A pandemic has accelerated that number. We're seeing a lot of need by our employers. And how does Idaho State specifically address workforce needs?
Good question. So we want to ensure that that's what we do is meet workforce needs, because we want our students to have that lifelong gainful employment once they graduate. So we've been working with business and industry to hear what their needs are and make sure that our programs match to fill those needs. It's beneficial for our students. It's beneficial for business and industry. So we have many industry collaborations, from research partnerships with our College of Science and Engineering. Our College of Business has a new Walter P. Brown Center for Sales Excellence, where students work with their faculty and corporate CEOs to talk about the skills that businesses need. Specifically, we actually had our Vice President of Research and our Vice President of Advancement meet with corporate CEOs and business leaders throughout our region, specifically to ask them questions around what skill set do you need to see from students? What should we be making sure our students have when they graduate that makes them the most employable upon graduation? And we took all of that feedback from all of these corporate CEOs and industry leaders, and then we came back to each of our colleges and each of our deans and said, okay, what can we do to make sure our academic programs and what we are educating our students makes them more employable upon graduation, makes them more valuable to business and industry. And so we're looking at our entire curriculum and reforming it to meet those needs. But then it's a step further than that. It's actually which academic programs we need to actually have so that employers can hire from it. So we have several new programs that we have started that have come direct from business and industry saying, well, we need this. And then we have started from scratch these academic programs to produce graduates in those areas. We have one coming out this summer, specifically again to the nuclear industry. And given the fact that we have the nuclear engineering program, we actually have a working nuclear reactor on our campus in Pocatello, and it's the only one in Idaho that is that way. We're being responsive right now to the nuclear industry, and that we're training a whole new group of nuclear technicians and actual nuclear welders, the people that, because the welding for the nuclear industry is very different than traditional welding because the materials are different that have to be inside a reactor, for example. And we have a program just starting out now that trains the people who will actually build those types of reactors and those reactor parts and things inside, because industry came and said, this is what we need. So we built the academic program to produce the graduates. That type of responsiveness to business and industry is not only critical for a public university, but it's an economic driver. This is what helps these businesses move forward. It provides them the workforce they need. So we're literally driving that economic engine by having those graduates. I think it's critical that higher education meet those workforce needs. That keeps us relevant, and it creates these trusted partnerships with business and industry. And that's our goal going forward.
That's great. Well, as an alumni, I'm really proud to be associated with Idaho State University. The time I spent there I just enjoyed it so much. Maybe it was where I was in my life, but the education while I was working for Senator Risch there in Pocatello, and I was getting a master's in public administration, and I just loved my classmates. My professors were incredible. It was a great experience, and I'll never forget that. And it's part of what's helped me refine how I go about policymaking and addressing my peers in the public sphere. And I'll just always be grateful for that. I'm glad that you're there at the helm and leading Idaho State into another era here.
No, I appreciate that, Jeremy. I think that our students are very loyal to Idaho State because of that type of experience. When I talk to our students, the number one thing that they tell me every time when I ask them about their experience is they say, if there's one thing I know for certain, it's that my faculty care about me. And I hear that over and over again, that the students at Idaho State say our faculty really care about us, and it creates this atmosphere of belonging and this camaraderie among our student body. So I'm glad you had that experience, because it seems to match what our students tell me all the time.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. We're really excited about the great things that are happening at ISU, and we'll look forward to hearing more in the future. We'll be paying attention. I also want to thank our presenting sponsor again, Sparklight. Thank you so much for your support. and also to our media partners, the Idaho Statesman, the Idaho Press, the Idaho Capital Sun, and Idaho Education News. We will see you again on this program next week, May the 4th at noon, where we'll visit with President Green from University of Idaho. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that partnership that you guys had. But again, President Satterlee, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with everything as you are coming up onto the end of the school year.
That's right. Well, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on today.
Thank you.